Okay.
All right. Welcome back to Left Bench Experts, episode 12, right? I believe.
Yes, episode 12.
Man, it's getting closer and closer. By the end of the semester, we have, I believe, 3 weeks, right?
3 weeks,
three
two more
weeks and-
episodes.
Yeah, 3 weeks, 2 more episodes.
So 2 more episodes. We're gonna try to film something, hopefully next week for Hot Dog Week. It's a really big week here. And we're gonna have the baseball team to interview, and that's gonna be super exciting. Can't wait for that video to soon come out. What else you got?
That's pretty much it. I mean, we got the baseball interview coming up, hopefully. But as of right now,
Yes.
we have Mr. Andy Gee from Wellsville. He works for Kyle Busch Motorsports, director of marketed operations, correct? If I
Yes,
got
sir.
that right.
Yep,
sir?
that's right.
That is right. Well, Mr. Andy Gee, I'm just curious, what is your work schedule with Kyle Busch Motorsports? How many days off do you got? How many days do you work?
I work quite a bit. So with the NASCAR schedule, work the office life when there is and isn't a race. And then so I work for all the truck series events. So we got 23 races. So when we have those events, which are mostly Fridays and Saturdays, then travel to where those are and do that. So put in a good chunk of hours, but it's a fun job and I enjoy what I do.
So, does that mean you were at Martinsville last night?
I was at Martinsville last night and pulled into my driveway about 2:30 this morning.
Oof.
Wow.
I'd say you guys are located in North Carolina, correct?
Yeah, so our shop is about 30 miles north of Charlotte in Mooresville, North Carolina. Most pretty much 97% of NASCAR teams are based somewhere 30 miles of Charlotte.
Yeah. That's where most NASCAR teams end up. Josh, you got any questions for him?
I would say, how's obviously being the director of marketing, what is your day-to-day operations for a company like this big and for behind a brand so large? How is it to operate in such that large environment?
So I guess throughout my career, I've sort of been one of those people that maybe have a title, but my title maybe doesn't signify everything that I do. I wear a lot of hats. So at KBM, I'm in charge of travel, so all the logistics of all the crew members getting to and from the races. I'm in charge of public relations, so race previews, post-race recaps, dealing with the drivers that come through KBM and managing their schedules and how they deal with the media, dealing with our sponsors that are on the trucks and fulfilling all of the obligations that are in the contracts, including working on all the, I don't necessarily make the paint schemes, but working between the sponsor and Kyle on what the trucks are going to look like, and then working with our decal company on making sure they get decaled, and then that goes for all the equipment, pit boxes, driver uniforms, crew uniforms, just a little bit of everything. Like you say, it's a big operation, but as far as our office and people that work kind of on the racing program, there's only 2 or 3 of us. So.
That is big. If you think about it from the office standpoint, not that many people work there, but the mechanical standpoint, have you ever worked with the trucks or on the trucks or anything like that?
So no. So funny story. My dad was a self-employed mechanic, and I rather when I was a kid, I was more into going and playing sports and didn't pay much attention to the family business. I regretted it a few times and my car broke down and I didn't know what to do. But so I'm not a mechanical person, and I do pretty much everything but work on the trucks and drive the trucks. They wouldn't want me down there.
So you pretty much just get the cool pictures in victory lanes when they win, right?
Yeah. So been fortunate enough. So I've been at KBM since 2011. And I think we've won 80-some races since I've been there. So I've been to victory lane a lot. And especially when it's a new driver, like getting my picture taken to have that memento.
Nice. That is actually really nice. I would love to have that job, honestly, just to get be in victory lane with the drivers after they win. I mean, I'm losing my Let
It's
me
okay.
regreen it here. What is your favorite moment in victory lane, like most prestigious to you?
Most prestigious to me? That's a good question. I guess probably the first one. So I worked for a nationwide series team out of Nashville for a couple of years before I came to KBM, and we finished second a couple times, but never won. Actually, one race so we had Greg Biffle driving for us, and he was leading the white flag lap, and actually got passed by Kyle. So we finished second. So once I came over to Kyle's, and to get that first win and go to victory lane for the first time was pretty cool.
I actually have a question.
Oh yeah.
So, since you've been with KBM for a while, you've seen like people who are in the Cup Series now, like William Byron, and I want to say, who else was there? We just looked at the website, but more specifically William Byron, who started with like iRacing. How does it feel like knowing that you've worked with those drivers and you see them up in the Cup Series right now?
Yeah, so that's sort of my job, where the people down in the shop that build the trucks, their job is to help them perform on the track. My job on the business side and public relations and working with the drivers is to try to teach those young kids that come up through, like how to deal with sponsors, how to deal with the media, making sure that they mention their sponsors in their interviews. And we've had there's William Byron, Christopher Bell, Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Eric Jones. So there's probably 7 or 8 in the Cup Series that came through KBM. And then, in addition to Kyle, like Martin Truex has won a race for us. Denny Hamlin's won a race for us. Casey Kane's won a race for us. So had my share of working with a lot of cool guys. But yes, the young kids are the fun ones to work with. I coached basketball when I was in my 20s, and I missed coaching, but I still get a little bit of that coaching aspect and coaching these guys on how to be successful on the business side in NASCAR.
I would say my question would be, what made you interested in NASCAR? How did you get into it? And on the business side, were there so many, I would say, flabbergasting moments where like, oh my God, I can't believe I met that person? Or because in this industry, in the sports industry, it's meeting people that you're never expecting and communicating with people that are just amazing. So I would say to you, is there any point in moment that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I met that person?
So as far as getting interested, so when I was in high school, I started out, one of my first jobs was working for the Wellsville Daily Reporter for John Anderson in the sports department, just as an assistant. And then when I went into college, I worked athletic events and worked in the sports information department. And then I got an internship with the Rochester Red Wings, which led to a job with the Syracuse Chiefs, and worked in AAA baseball for 10 years before I got into NASCAR. But I remember when I was in high school, one of my best friend's brother had gone for sports management. And as you're kind of thinking about what you want to do when you grow up, just learning that there was a business side of the sports, because I was okay at some sports, but wasn't a star athlete, wasn't going to play in college or professionals. Then it's like, oh, okay, there's another avenue for me to be a part of professional sports without being on the field. And then just like I explained, just kind of work my way through different things to where I am today. In the baseball world, obviously, I did community relations, so I worked with a lot of the players. Same thing on like doing autograph sessions, doing baseball clinics, and I don't know. I just always kind of became, obviously, not one of them, but like comfortable with dealing with celebrities or big time athletes. And I think that's when I came to Kyle's, is one of the things is like, it wasn't like, some people might put them on a pedestal and be scared to deal with them. And I think that was one of the things that, I would just do my job. I'm not trying to be cool and hang out with celebrities. I'm just there to do my job, and it happens to be with a high profile celebrity athlete.
Yeah, that is fair. I mean, most people on the business side are there just to do their job, and
That's,
For young people, they got to get that to understand. It's a job. It's not fandom. It's not there to, you got to do there to get your work done, do it good, and make sure you do it pretty much on time. The next question I have for you was, obviously with Kyle Busch going over to RCR and not staying with Toyota, what was that process like switching from Toyota to Chevy?
So on my end, I don't think I mentioned this part, but like the uniforms and then apparel that the guys wear in the shop. And basically ever since I've been there in 2011, everything we had Toyota logos all over it. So just changing out all the equipment, the uniforms and all that stuff and getting Chevy logos on it instead of Toyota. It was a pretty good expense. We had to get all brand new like crew uniforms and it just, I don't know, you kind of, even earlier in that year, I had ordered, some extra KBM shirts with Toyota on the back of them because you never really saw it coming that he wasn't going to be with Toyota. So it was definitely some hard work. And then the guys in the shop, it was luckily in the truck series, the center section of the trucks, whether you're Chevy or Toyota, is the same. So it was just cutting off the nose and tails and putting the Chevy ones on. That's where a lot of the manufacturer identity is the nose and the tails.
Yeah, and you always you talked earlier about sponsors and decals on the trucks. What was the hardest sponsor you had to work with
that's a good one.
to get him to sign?
Hardest sponsor I have to deal with? I wouldn't say it's the hardest, but when we were with Toyota, they had a business-to-business relationship with Safelite, and they were really into the racing program, and they would have anywhere from 18 to 70 people come out to each race, which was great. But like I talked about before, with having a small staff, it was a lot of work to manage that. But I wouldn't say there's been a tough one to work with.
That's good. Make sure the payment process and signing is easy and good to work with. Sticking with the sponsors, how does the process go for them, like getting like a certain track they want or like a certain race or like, where or what placement they want to be on the truck?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the season, you I guess it'd be kind of top down. So like your biggest sponsors, you get with them and how many races they have and what markets they want to be in. So, Safelite, when we had them in last year, Mid-Ohio is close to their base in Columbus. So they wanted that race. And, Texas was always a big one for them. And then, most of your big time sponsors want to be on for the first race of the year in Daytona and be on for the final race of the year in Phoenix. So then just kind of carving out their schedule and then filling in with the other sponsors around that.
Nice.
As you said, going into sports business and the challenges of, have to getting sponsorships and working around scheduling with others to go around. I would say, how did you get the job? Like afterwards, like was there like a interview process or was it like an easy transition?
It was like an elevator pitch, or was it just a full-on interview?
My best friend, who's also from Wellsville, was on the business side of NASCAR, and so he worked for a company that was a consultant for Kimberly-Clark, and they sponsored a nationwide series car. One of the few teams that wasn't in Charlotte, it was in Nashville. It was the Kleenex car, 27 nationwide car with Jason Keller, and their PR representative. Something had happened and they were looking for somebody. So he's like, hey, if you want to get into NASCAR, send your resume here. And so I went and I did that. I got the job in Nashville and did that for 2 years, and that team actually shut down. And so Greg Biffle, who was a Cup Series driver, had drove 10 or 12 races in that car in the Nationwide Series. And so I got to deal with his public relations representative who knew the GM of KBM. And so when that team shut down, she's like, hey, if you're looking for a job, I heard they're looking for somebody at KBM. And I came over and interviewed, and on a Friday, I think they offered me the job on a Monday. And then the following Monday, I put all my stuff in my car and moved over to Charlotte. Luckily, the best friend that I talked about, he was already in Charlotte, so I lived with him for a couple months while I got an apartment. Because I started 2 weeks before Daytona
Ooh.
in 2011. And actually, so I interviewed with the GM and I interviewed with Kyle's wife. I never even interviewed with Kyle, and the first time I met him was at the track in Daytona.
Oh my!
Okay, kind of piggybacking off of that, how big of a part is Samantha Bush in KBM?
Yeah, she's a huge part. So she's involved in a lot of like the retail store. Her and Kyle have a foundation. It started out, they did it for kids in need. So at Christmas time, they would buy Christmas gifts and do different things for them. And then they actually had their foundation has changed now where they had to use IVF to have their first child. And actually used it for their second child or whatever. So now their foundation is pretty much focused on helping other couples that can't have children naturally with donating money so that they can have their kids.
Wow.
She's involved with that a lot. And now that social media is a big thing, like she's involved in our social media and she's really good at that. And over the years, she's done a really good job of helping people see the other side of Kyle, not the one that's angry after a race when he finishes second, but the dad and the husband and the personality he has, like all through the involvement of social media and on her social media, kind of showing people the side of Kyle when he's away from the track. So she's a huge part of KBM.
I can't believe you just started 2 weeks before it. That's unbelievable. But I would say on your day-to-day job, what is the most challenging part of your daily routine, of your daily work? Because it is tough in this business. So, what would you say
most challenging part of my job, just I guess time management. Just because I'm involved in so many aspects and having to, take what's important and making sure that gets done and like I said, I wear a lot of hats, so just making sure that I'm organized and keep a list of things that need to get done so that I can get everything done that people rely on me for.
I think everybody in sports management business or in college in general who's trying to get that degree would also agree with you about time management, because this business, you have to manage so much at a lot of times, and I think it's very important to at least manage your time and see how you're going to do your day by day. And I think that's very important. What you said, it's still going to continue after college when you do your work, whatever profession you're going into, because we're going for our sports management degree, and it's so like we're our first year, and it's an amazing opportunity we're having right now because this industry is so broad and so vast and so many opportunities. I think it's so amazing to see what walks of life people came through and how they got in their position today. And it's amazing, and their challenges and how they timed it. And it's amazing, I would say, how all these people got where they are today. That was just to agree with you about still time management is so important in this industry.
Yeah. So you guys doing this podcast brings up a really good point that I talked to a college class recently is like in my day, to build your resume, you had to actually go and work for an actual organization to get your experience to prove what you could do. Nowadays with social media and podcasts, you can build experience on your own. So you guys are doing this podcast and you have something to show when you get ready to do a job, and if it is something to do with social media and podcasts and stuff, you guys are building a resume right now, which is a cool thing. Like you don't have to, get the Rochester Red Wings to hire you. You can build your own experience, and I've seen people do it on Instagram, build up huge followings on Instagram with racing stuff, and it's definitely a very unique time.
And so you bring up social media, which leads me to iRacing. So I know you guys probably have simulators at your garage area or whatever. I don't know if you guys do that or not, or you're involved with that. But half of the new young guys started on iRacing because, well, it's the cheaper option nowadays. I mean, you don't have to go spend $2,000 a week on a car. Hopefully, you don't tear it up. If you tear it up, then you got to spend repairs. Um, do you honestly think iRacing is going to have that much big of a difference still, further on in NASCAR?
Yeah, so the iRacing thing has kind of led the manufacturers into having their own simulations that are way above and beyond what iRacing. So both with working with Toyota, working with Chevy, they have a center in the Charlotte area where these drivers go, and it's an actual like chassis that they sit in. And there's 3D screens.
Wow.
And they go, if they're going to Martinsville, they go and they get in this thing, and actually the crew chief and the engineer are involved, and they can make the changes that they're going to make in a race. And the driver can feel that, if he's loose, then they can make a change, and he can tell them if it worked or not. And that's where it's gone to. It was amazing in COVID, where when they didn't do no practice, no qualifying, just line up and race. The way they've been able to do it is because they've built these simulators, and basically they're testing and practicing in these simulators instead of having the money to go and if you want to test Las Vegas, then you're gonna have to drive the haulers across the country with a truck. Where now you can go 30 minutes over to Concord to the GM Performance Center, and the crew chief, engineer, and driver can all simulate it. And then you've got to take that. Most of it's only single truck, right? So then, you do get your 20 minutes of practice now to see how your truck's going to handle in a group of trucks. But it's amazing, just like we talked about with social media, how things have changed with technology on competition side. It's amazing to see the strides that they've made just in the last 4 or 5 years, especially, probably you guys seen some stuff in your schooling and stuff. Just COVID was a bad thing, but there was pros that came out of it.
Oh yeah, especially.
So what is your typical race day? I know the haulers and drivers is completely different. What is your kind of race day? Like, what do you do on race day?
So race day, well, first and foremost, making sure, like I said, because the logistics, making sure that hotels, rental cars, planes are taken care of to get the people to the track, and then managing the driver's schedule. So, yesterday Chase Purdy went out to the Chevy display appearance, so I coordinate that, make sure it gets out there. Right now we kind of don't have a social media person, so I'm doing a little bit of our social media too. So there were some templates that the last guy made for if you win a stage, if you win the race, and they're made where it's a based one, and then you change the text to say Martinsville, and then maybe take some pictures for practice and dump them into the templates. So working on that. Kyle was driving yesterday at Martinsville, so just kind of walking around. People joke, you say I'm his bodyguard. So walking with him to the truck, making sure that if when he's getting ready to get focused on practice or whatever, that the fans aren't bugging him. What else? Just after the race is over, like this morning, I woke up and wrote post-race reports that go to our sponsors, go on website. If we win, there's a bag that you take to victory lane, and they call it the hat dance. So all, the team and the driver get their pictures taken with the different hats. Same thing, like if there's something that happened during the race, maybe, coaching the drivers like, hey, you might not want to bring that up, or don't say something that's going to stay with you for weeks just because you're angry right now.
Oh my.
Yeah, it is very chaotic there, and I come back to Las Vegas when you said that you control, make sure all the teams are on there and on time and all that. I think it was Las Vegas when Kyle Busch didn't have a pit crew for his first pit stop.
Oh
yeah.
How chaotic was that?
that was pretty chaotic. So most of the teams fly on a charter plane. So it's a company called Victory Air, and they have a race day plane for the pit crews. And they fly. They have about 10 planes in their fleet, and they fly the teams across all 3 series. And they usually have one plane on standby just in case like a mechanical thing happens. And for some reason, that standby plane was like 2 hours away. So when our pit crew, so the pit crews were spread across 2 different planes. Well, one went off without a hitch, and one had a mechanical, and so they had to wait 2 hours to get that plane back.
Oh my.
And then so they landed right about the time that the race was starting.
Oh.
And so the track was working. So there's a Brendan Gaughan, who was a driver. His family owns casinos out there, so they were trying to work with him to get in touch with like local police to try to get a police escort for these guys, because the airport's about 20 minutes from the track. And then us as a team just working as like, what's our backup plan if these guys don't get here? And so our relationship with Colleague and RCR, they said they had some crews that could, weren't maybe their A crews that could fill in. And sure enough, like they didn't get there in time, and Kyle came down pit road, and there were some guys that weren't really qualified to be doing a pit stop, and it was a circus. And then luckily the real pit crews got there before the next pit stop. But
I mean, hey, at least he still won the race, though. That's all that matters.
we still won the race.
He
Yes.
still won the race.
Now, is there a protocol for any situation like that ever again? Do you guys have a backup ever since that?
I mean, so we kind of contract those pit crews from RCR, so they handle the travel and stuff. But I know, like on our end, if not flying to the West Coast the same day as the race is a pretty good protocol to follow. So if anything happens, then you still have time to get
Yeah.
and not have like a 3-hour window.
So my next question is like,
One more question, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're about to get kicked off because it says Google like 1 hour.
Okay.
oh,
So I think one more question.
Yeah.
will do.
well, I think this is a good question then for this last question. Team alignments, like how does that work? Like allies, like I know certain teams hate other teams. I mean, like how does that ally/rival system work?
So basically, most of it's by manufacturer, right? So Toyota actually started it 10 years ago as just getting all the teams in the Toyota camp to work together and share notes so that Toyota as a whole gets better. And then you see it. So that happens behind the scenes during the race, like all the, excuse me, like the Chevrolet crew chiefs, especially at speedway races, have a group chat. So as they're sitting there on the pit box, there's a, Microsoft Teams, and it's like, hey, we need to make sure that in the drafting races that everybody pits together, right? So like, hey, every Chevy truck, we need to pit on lap 47 so that, you don't lose your drafting help. And then same thing, like you go to the wind tunnel, the numbers that and different things you do at the wind tunnel, for Chevy to support you and give you money towards your race team, it's sort of like a deal. Like if we let you come to the wind tunnel, you need to share it with the other Chevy teams and stuff as well.
All
All
right.
right. I think that was a great question.
Yeah, I just want to cap it off saying like you talked about like time management because your job is all about time management, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your day,
God, yes.
especially after Martinsville. Like you just got back at what 2 a.m.
2.
and you're here talking to us, and
Yeah.
we just want to thank you
It was
so much for that.
No, anytime. Appreciate it. And like I said, it's cool for guys like you to be getting this experience and building a resume. Same thing. You're on a Saturday in college. You could be out doing something different. Maybe you will be later.
True.
Kudos to you guys for having a passion and putting it to something that's going to help you down the road.
Yeah,
All right.
extremely.
Well, thank you so
So
much.
much, really.
We really
do
appreciate it. And, well, I know the Truck Series ain't racing next week, or I don't think the week after that, but next race is probably going to be Talladega. Have fun with that one.
Good luck with the rest
All
of the
right,
season.
yeah, we got 2 weeks off and race again at Kansas. So I'm
Kansas.
going to enjoy a little downtime and go on a little trip with my family next weekend and play some golf. And you guys have a good end to your semester. And if you ever need me again, be sure to reach out.
No problem.
Hope you
Thank
guys
you.
get that 100th win. Have fun.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, and that was an amazing interview with Mr. Andy Gee. He was incredible. He really took time out of his day. He really couldn't have done this, to be honest.
Especially after coming after a race. Like,
Exactly.
Jesus.
Oh my, like,
Nah, I mean, he got 10 hours of sleep, maybe. I don't know.
but not even that.
I know,
It's
like, the exhausted he must have been from driving from Virginia to North Carolina. Like, because he obviously didn't take a plane that far. He probably drove, but still.
it's
That's what,
just
2 hour drive, 3 hour foot, not 2 hour drive. The hell am I smoking?
in
But
this,
still.
yeah, in this business, it's just a lot of time consumption, a lot of time consuming, and a lot of dedication and passion. He ended up he was doing baseball for a long time. You just never know when an opportunity from a different sport and a different industry comes up along your career. And I think it's very important where he shared his detail, and we really do appreciate what he did today. That will conclude our episode for today. Next week, maybe we will have something because it's Hot Dog Week. It's very exciting around Alfred, New York. It's a really biggest thing here. We can't wait for that. If something does come up, it's gonna be a surprise. I won't say what would it really be. We'll be talking to the baseball crew, but maybe something a little bit else. But really, I want to thank everybody, Mr. Andy Gee, for everything today, because we really didn't have to do it again. Like, comment, subscribe, please share. We love you all. Have a great day.
Yes.
What?
What? I had a voice crack in the middle of saying yes. Like, I was trying to say yes, and I was like,
Okay, goodbye.